Hello and welcome to this Excel dashboard tutorial. In this tutorial you will be able to see how to create nice looking dashboard in Excel. Basically, to follow this tutorial you will need just some basic knowledge in Excel, so if you have that you will be able to create this dashboard very easy. Okay, let's talk about this dashboard. Basically, as you can see, we are presenting dashboard related to sales, as you can see here, and also below that we have some KPIs here. Also, in this first section, we are able to see those slicers. So those slicers we will be using to filter our data. So let's see how that works. If I click on this consumer, for example, basically first slicer is segment. So let's click on that consumer. If I click on that, I will be able to see that all my data is changed. Let me click this time on corporate. And as you can see, all our data is changed. If I click on home office, it's also the same. Also, we can filter our data by category, as you can see here. And also, let's try, for example, office supplies. If I click on that, I will be able to see only home office values from this slicer and office supplies category for each of them. So this is the function of our slicers. Basically, we will be able to filter our data. But let's turn off that for now. Let's click on this one, and we will be able to see all our data. Now that we explained that first section, let's proceed to next one. Next one is state analysis. Basically, we are able to see sales for each of these states. For example, first one is California, New York, Texas, and so on. So basically, we have only one chart that is representing our sales per state. Next section will be sales by product. Basically, we have some different products, for example, phones, chairs, storage, and so on. And we have sales corresponding to that product, and that is basically everything that we can see on this chart here. Let's move to the next one. Next one is pie chart, as you can see, and we are able to see here sales by region. So basically we have 4 regions and we have sales corresponding to each of those regions. Also, we have one more pie chart. Basically, this chart is representing sales by ship mode. So basically we are able to see those 3 classes for each of these ship modes, and we are able to see sales for each of them. For example, from this chart we are able to see that almost 60% belongs to standard class, and so on. So now that we understand our dashboard, let's talk about the process of building this dashboard. First, we need to start from data source. We cannot create dashboard if we don't have data source. In our case, we already have some data and we will be using that data for our dashboard. Basically, this is our data source. Let me just see whole data set. If I check, for example, from first column, we are able to see that we have some row ID and also order ID. Basically, from this we can understand that we have some orders and also data belonging to those orders. So, for example, we have this ship mode that we will be using in our dashboard, customer ID, name, segment, country. As you can see, those are informations related to location. Also, we have postal code and region. Next, we also have some informations about product itself. For example, product ID, category of that product, subcategory, product name, and also we have some numeric informations, for example, sales that we will be using, quantity, discount, and profit. So this is basically our data. Now we will be using the data for our dashboard. To do that, we will first need to aggregate this data somehow, and for that purpose we are going to be using pivot tables. So let's click on this sheet here, and we are able to see how we already created pivot tables. Basically, I will go through this one more time, of course, and I just need you to understand that we will aggregate our data using those pivot tables. We will create everything from scratch, but let's see what tables we have here. For example, we have sales for each of these ship modes. Also for products, cities, states, region, and so on. Also, we have those KPIs. For that, we are not using pivot tables. As you can see from this bar here, basically we are summing our sales column, and it's similar for profit and orders. We are just summing those values. So that's all that you need to understand. Now we can add new sheet. Let's add it here, and this one will be pivot. Let's call it pivot 2, and in this sheet I'm gonna be creating pivot tables that I will need for my dashboard. So let's start inserting our pivot tables. Let's go to data source tab and let's select all this data. To do that, press Ctrl A. That way you will be able to select all data. After that, I'm gonna click on this insert button here, and then I will be able to choose in this table section, I'm gonna choose this pivot table. Let's click on that. and we have this pivot table box here. We need to provide two values here. Basically, first one is table range. We already selected our data, so we don't have to touch anything here. We can proceed to next one. Next one is question. Would you like to place your pivot table in new worksheet or existing one? In this case, I'm going to use this existing worksheet. Let's click on that. And now I will need to provide location for that pivot table. Let me go to this pivot tool. And let's click, for example, here. Here is our location. If I click on OK, I will be able to see this pivot table builder. From this, we will be able to create our first pivot table. If you check on this right side here, we will be able to see that we have fields from our data set. If I scroll down, I will be able to see all these fields. For example, these numeric fields, fields related to products, customers, and so on. And below that, we are able to see 4 sections. So the idea of these pivot tables is to place each of these fields that you need in desired section. So let's see how that works. For example, first one will be sales by state. So we would like to see all sales for each of these states. So what we need for that? First, we need this state column. Let's drag this and I will put that in rows. So let's see why I'm doing that. Because that way we will be able to see each state in separate row, and now we will be adding sales to each of these. Let me show you what will happen if I, for example, put this state here in columns. We will be able to see states in each of these columns. Basically, we can do that, but it's not convenient in this case. Let me move this back to rows, and now it's perfect. Now we need to add sales to this table. So let's find our sales column. This is our sales column. So basically, where we need to place this sales column? We need to put that column here in values, because this is numerical column. So we will need to aggregate those values. As you can see, we have sum of sales currently. Excel automatically summed up all these values. If I click on this here and value field settings, I will be able to see this sum function here. We could also count, use average, max, min, and so on, but this time we will be using sum. Let's click on OK. And now we are able to see total sales for each of these countries. Okay, that's perfect for us. Let me just do a little bit formatting. If I click on this one, I will be able to see those values nicely. For this one, let's call it state. Okay, perfect. And now we have our first pivot table. In next pivot table, we would like to see sales for each of these products that we have. Let's, for example, first copy this, select your table, Ctrl A, copy that, and paste it here. This way we will be able to see second pivot table. But now, instead of state here, we would like to present different products. So let's see how can we do that. Let's find product column. As you can see, we have this product name. So let's place that here in rows. And this way you will be able to see that we have now pivot table that is representing each of these products, but also countries belonging to those products. For example, this product is sold in California, and this is sales amount for that. Also for Florida, and so on. But this time we would like to see something else. We would like to see only products and sales belonging to those products. So we will remove this state column. Let's remove that like this. And now we are able to see much better. Okay, perfect. But now let's say that we would like to see, for example, product category instead of products. How can we change that? We can, instead of this product name, use product category. So let's find category. It's this one here, and let's place it here. Instead of product name, we will be able to see category. Okay, perfect. Now let's leave those values here. I'm going to use that. Also, what I would like to see next, sales for each product subcategory. Let's copy this one. Let's paste it here below. And now, instead of category, let's use product subcategory. Let's scroll down. As you can see, this is subcategory here. To exclude this category from this pivot table, instead of doing this, you can also just click on this, uncheck that, and you will be able to see only sales value here. And instead of category this time, as I said, we will be using subcategory. Let's click on that, and we are able to see product subcategory and sales belonging to that subcategory. Okay, now that's perfect. Next one will be analysis by region. So basically we will be able to see total sales that we have in each of these regions that we have. So let's see what regions we have. To do that, we will copy again pivot table, paste it here, and instead of category, let's find the region column. Let's place it here and let's remove this category, and this time we will be able to see total sales for each of these regions. That's excellent. Now we need to add one more pivot table. This time we will be using different metrics. So let's copy this. Basically we will be using sales again, but instead of region, this time let's use this ship mode, for example. Let's check this, and if I do that, I will be able to see each of these ship modes, and they are divided for each of these regions, because as you can see we are keeping this region column here, but now I will remove that because we don't need to see that in our dashboard. Let's remove region, and now we are able to see each of these ship modes. Now that we have all these pivot tables, we need to create only values for KPIs. As I said previously, we will be creating simple functions for that. We will be summing all values from sales column, profit column and orders column. That way we will be able to see total sales, total profit and total number of orders. Let's go to our data source. And basically those are columns that we'll be using: sales, quantity and profit. Basically we just need to sum all these values and we will be able to see our totals. Let's go to pivot 2, and here we can type our formula equals sum, and we need now to choose this column that we will be using. Let's go to data source, sales, press enter, and we have our value. Let's click on this button here and we will be able to see it formatted like this. Also for next one, let's type also equals sum. And now we will be able to choose different column. This time we will be using profit, press enter, and we have our profit here. As you can see, it's very easy to complete that. And now we also need to include that number of orders, sum, data source, and order quantity. Let's click on this. Perfect. Now we have all our values completed, and we can start creating our dashboard. But before we start, let's first create another page. This page we could call dashboard 2, for example. And now we are able to include our values in this dashboard. First, I would like to create background. For that, let's select all cells that I would like to modify. I think this should be enough. And I'm going to use color black. Okay, perfect. And now we can create our title. To do that, first we need to merge few columns. Let's merge those cells. Click on this option here. And now we are able to type our text. First, I would like to change font color and also font size. Let's do something like that just for now. And type sales dashboard. Okay, perfect. Now we can make this bold and make this also bigger, and this is much better. Now we have our title. Next, what I would like to insert is KPI cards. To do that, I'm gonna go to this insert tab and let's find this shapes option. If I click on that, I will be able to choose some shape. Let's choose this one, for example, and let's place it here. We can modify this later, but for now I'm gonna click on this formula bar and let's type equal. And now I need to provide my cell. So let's click on this cell here. This is our sales value. Press enter and you will be able to see that value here. Now we need to format this scorecard. To do that, let's first align it like this. I'm gonna make this bold. Also I'm gonna make this bigger and I'm gonna change color. It will be white color. Okay, perfect. I could also resize this card and something like this, and change color, of course. Let's click on shape format and let's try with this color. Maybe I could find something else. Let's try with this one, and this one is maybe better, so I'm gonna use this color. Let's place it here and I'm gonna copy this card and paste it here, and one more time. And now we have 3 scorecards. What we need to do next, we have also sales value here, and instead of this I'm going to provide profit this time. So let's delete this. Let's go to this pivot sheet and let's provide profit value. Press enter And now we are able to see profit value. Let's use Format Painter to make that formatting same like this one. And now we need to provide value for this third one. To do that, I'm gonna go again to Pivot 2, and this is number of orders. Let's press enter. Let's use Format Painter once again, and now we are able to see that third scorecard completed. If you check this dashboard here, we also need to include those icons here, and to do that, I will provide you a link in the description, and you will be able to go to site and download those icons for yourself. But for now, I'm gonna just copy all of these and paste it in this dashboard here. Let's do something like this. Okay, I'm gonna need to place it like this, and okay, that's perfect. Now what I need to include is one line below this section. To do that, I'm gonna use this row here. But before that, let's change this line color. Let's use this one, and let's do that once again. Now we have that line here, but I would like also to include like this, top and bottom, and now it's much better. Let me just resize now this cell, and that's perfect. We have this line here. I would like also to include that once more. Let's do something like this, and that's perfect. Let's resize this, and now we are able to see those lines that will separate our report. Next, we need to include charts in this dashboard. So to do that, let's go to this Pivot 2, and now first we will include chart for this state pivot table. To do that, I'm gonna just click anywhere in this table, Pivot Table Analyze, and I will be able to click on this Pivot Chart option. If I click on that, I will be able to see different charts that we can use for this pivot table. As you can see, this clustered column chart is recommended, but let's see our options. For example, we could use line chart. Pie chart is not suitable for that many countries, so let's use column chart. Let's click on this one. Okay, and now we are able to see those values. Now I will move this chart to our dashboard. This chart will be placed here in this section here. Let's resize this, and that is much better. Now I need to modify this chart. To do that, let's first remove this chart title. I don't need to see that. Grid lines and legend. I don't need any of these. Let me resize this. I'm gonna put title here. And also what we need to remove is this background. Let's go to Format, Shape Fill, and click on this No Fill. Also we need to do that for this outline. Also click No Outline, and we will be able to see only that chart without any borders and backgrounds. That's perfect. Let me just place it like this. Okay. And now I would like to change that color for this text. Let's click on Home, and let's click on this white. Let's do the same for this one. White. Okay, perfect. And let's change also color for these bars. Let's click on Bars, Format, Shape Fill, and choose color. Okay, great. What I would like also to see in this chart is those values sorted, but not by country, but instead of that sorted by sales. So let's see how can we do that. I'm gonna go to this Pivot 2 sheet, and I will be sorting those values. So to do that, I will click on my pivot table. Let's click on this Data tab and sort Z to A. That way we will be able to see biggest value on top and smallest value at the bottom. So let's also format these numbers, Home, and click on this, and now it's much better. Now let's check now this chart that we added to our dashboard, and as you can see now it's sorted properly. We are able to see that California has biggest sales, next one is New York, Texas, and so on. With this we completed this first chart. We also need to add title for that chart. Let's insert text box. To do that, let's go to Insert tab, then text box, place it here for example, and let's type sales by state. Sales by state, that's perfect. Let's place it like this. I'm gonna need to resize this. Let's use actually green color. Let's click on that. I'm gonna make that bold, and I'm gonna make it also bigger. Resize that. And also what I would like to remove is that background, so that way we are able to see only that text. But as you can see, we have that border around this text, so let's remove that. Shape format, shape outline, no outline. And basically we completed that. Now we need to complete this section below here. Let me first add another row here. I'm gonna just select those cells and let's click on that, and perfect. Next chart that we will be inserting is sales for each product. So let's go to Pivot to tab and let's find what we can use from here. As you can see, we didn't change this title here, so instead of state, let's type product here. Product, and that's it. Let's also change for all of these. This one is category, this one is region, perfect, and this one is, let's say, ship mode, perfect. And now, as I said, I would like to see now total sales for each of these products. Basically we will be using this table for that purpose. And first I would like also to sort those values. To do that, as I mentioned before, I'm gonna go to this data, sort Z to A. Basically it will be, as you can see, largest to smallest. It's basically descending, and also we have this option for ascending, from smallest to largest. Let's use this one, and now we are able to see our values properly sorted. Let's do the same for this one, also for this one, and let me click just on this column. Okay, better. Also on this one. And I think we completed everything properly. Let's now create chart belonging to this table. I'm going to click anywhere in this table, pivot table analyze, pivot chart, and this time I will be also using bar chart. It's very suitable for this situation because we have multiple values and we cannot present that in, for example, pie chart or something like that. Basically line chart could be also nice, but this time let's use bar chart. Let's cut this chart, Ctrl X, paste it here, Ctrl V, and now I will need to modify this chart. I'm gonna place it here. First, I would like to remove chart title. I don't need to see that. Also those grid lines and the legend. What I could also do, I could resize this chart. It could be bigger. And now this is much better. After that is completed, I would like to go to this Format tab, Shape Fill, and I will click on No Fill. Let's do the same for outline. And that way we will be able to remove background and border. Let's also change this text. Click on Home. Let's choose white color and let's do the same for those numbers. Okay, that's excellent. What we also need to change are these bars. Let's click on any of these bars, format, shape fill, and now let's use this green color. Okay, this is much better. Let's see if we can resize this chart once more. Okay, that's better. And I'm gonna copy this title. Let's copy this. Let's place it here. Sales by product. By product. I will need to resize this a bit, and that's perfect. We also completed this chart here. Next we need to insert two more charts. Those will be pie charts. So let's go to our pivot tool. And we can add those two pie charts for region and for ship mode. Let's do that. Click on this first table, pivot table analyze, pivot chart, pie chart. Let's use this one. Okay, perfect. Let's do the same for this ship mode. Click on that table, pivot table analyze, pivot chart, pie, and let's use this one. Click OK, and now we have those two charts. Let's cut both of them. Ctrl X. Let's place them here, for example, here. Okay, great. Now I need to resize them. Let's place them like this. Now I need to modify them. What we need first to remove, this time we need that legend, but we don't need this chart title. Let's remove also chart title for this one, and that is much better. Let's see if we could do something like this. Okay, let's also resize this one. and this is perfect. We also need to remove that background. Let's go to Format, Shape Fill, No Fill, Outline, No Outline. Also do the same for this one, Shape Fill, No Fill, and again for Outline. Now we also need to change this legend. Let's click on that and use this white color. Let's do the same for this one, white color, and it's much better. Now what else we need to include? We need to include titles first. Let's copy this one, place it here. This one will be sales by region, and let's copy that one more time. And let's place it here. This one will be sales by class. Let's say something like that. And with that completed, we are done with all these charts. What we also need to include in this dashboard, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is if we check this dashboard, we'll be able to see that we have those two slicers. Basically, those slicers will allow us to filter our data. So they are very important for our dashboard. Let's go to dashboard. And now I'm going to include slicers here in the dashboard. To do that, let's go to Pivot 2. Let's click on any of these pivot tables. Let's go to Pivot Table Analyze. And previously we included those charts, but this time I'm going to click on this Insert Slicer. If I click on that, I will be able to see this slicers window, and this will allow us to choose field based on which we would like to filter our data. So I mentioned that we would like to filter data by region, by category. So let's click on category, click on OK, and now we are able to see that by category. And let's create one more slicer. Let's click on that, Pivot Table Analyze, Insert Slicer, and this time let's use, for example, this segment. Okay, great. Now we have those two slicers, category and segment. Let's cut them both, and I'm gonna paste them here in my dashboard. Let's do something like this. First will be, for example, category, and second one will be segment, for example. It's not that important. Let's place it like this. Now I would like to change color for these. Let's click on this slicer, and I have some default options here. Let's use, for example, this one. This is nice. Let's use the same for this second slicer, and now we are able to see those slicers formatted. Now what we can do, we can check how they works. If we click, for example, on furniture, let's try if we will be able to filter our data. If I click on furniture, I will be able to see that we only filter this table here. Let me try once again, office supplies. Basically, we are only applying that filter on this table here. Everything else stays the same. It's also for this one. So let's turn off this. Let's try this segment. Let's click on consumer. It's also the same. Only applying for this specific chart here. If we click on home office, it's also the same. So let's see what we can change here. If I click on this slicer here, if I go to this slicers tools section, and if I go and find this report connections, let's click on that, we will be able to see that we connected our slicer only to one pivot table. But we have more these pivot tables, so we need to check them all. After we check all these pivot tables, let's click on OK. And now let's try to filter again our data. If I click on this technology, and now we will be able to see that we are filtering successfully all these charts. Let's click on furniture. It's also the same for furniture and office supplies. That's great. Let's turn off this. And now let's do the same for this segment. Again, we are filtering only this chart here. So if I remove this, and if I go in this slicer tools tab and click on report connections, I will be able to check all these pivot tables that we have. And I think this should be fine. Let's click on OK. Try with this consumer. And now we are able to see that we are successfully filtering all our data. Okay, with those slicers completed, we are done with this dashboard. I hope that you learned something new from this video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.